Canada's lumber shutdown marks more than just a company closure. It's a symbol of a system starting to crack. When one of the nation's largest lumber producers halts production, it doesn't just idle machines. It ripples through every corner of the economy, from rural workers to urban housing markets. The real story here is about leadership, or the lack of it. Mark Carney, long hailed as the steady hand who could balance markets and politics, now faces a crisis that exposes deep structural weakness. His promises of stability and green growth sound hollow as industries collapse and communities brace for impact. This isn't simply a lumber problem. It's a warning flare for Canada's broader economic health, signaling that under Carney's watch, the balance between idealism and reality.
Now is Nick Arkle, CEO of Gorman Brothers, a lumber manufacturer in West Kelowna. Nick, great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much.
Nick, give me a snapshot of your business just to begin with. How much of your lumber goes to the U.S. historically?
Well, historically, if you go back decades, it was probably 80-85%. That wouldn't be the case today. We'd be more in that 50 to 55% range. That would be volume-wise, but we do, in fact, have probably on a value-wise, it would be a little bit more than that. The Americans tend to buy the best, highest-grade lumber, and so it's an important market for that reason.
Okay, so the majority of your business is dealing with the United States, and you've got tariff now after tariff on your product. How has that impacted you so far, and what does another 10% mean?
Well, it's significant. As you pointed out, now we're sitting at 45%, and there's one company in particular that's a lot further north than that. This is going to have a big impact on our business. Now, every business is going to be different. Some will be able to.
Nick Arkle's comments capture the heart of Canada's deepening economic strain. His company, Gorman Brothers, reflects an entire sector built on decades of trade dependence with the United States, a partnership now turning into a liability. Once, up to 85% of their lumber went south of the border, but even with that number reduced to roughly half today, the U.S. remains their most valuable customer. The problem is that tariffs, now hitting 45%, have turned that relationship toxic. High-grade Canadian lumber, once prized in the American market, is becoming too expensive to sell competitively. Arkle's warning that some will survive longer than others isn't just about one company's struggle, it's a snapshot of a national crisis. Canada's lumber industry is being squeezed between punitive trade policies and weak federal leadership, revealing how vulnerable the economy has become when its core exports are held hostage by foreign tariffs and domestic inaction.
No planned job losses. As I said, we scratch and claw and fight to make sure that we survive. Some of that is passing on some of the pain to our customers. We have generational buyers in the United States who have bought from us for a long time, and some of that's going to be passed on to them. Some of it will have to be absorbed by us as a company as well, and some of it will be operational efficiencies. There'll be numerous ways of trying to adapt, but at the end of the day, we need a negotiated agreement, and that's what I think we just heard from our Premier. There's a groundswell of support within the province. We need to see one. We need to see one quickly. This summer, we actually had the Prime Minister here and Minister Hodgson at our operations to make that $1.2 billion announcement they made. And at that meeting, I had a face-to-face for a long time with them. They asked good questions. They understood the industry, but we made it very clear we need a negotiated settlement. We need to be at the table. We need to be there equal to steel and aluminum and energy and automobiles. And we got the commitment that we are. Now we just have to make sure.
Nick Arkle's remarks reveal the quiet desperation running through Canada's lumber sector. Despite no immediate job cuts, his company is already in survival mode, trimming costs, tightening operations, and reluctantly passing some of the financial strain to long-standing American clients. It's a portrait of an industry fighting to stay alive while waiting for political leadership to act. Arkle's insistence on a negotiated trade agreement underscores a deeper frustration. Lumber remains excluded from the same level of federal urgency granted to sectors like steel, energy, and autos. His face-to-face meeting with the Prime Minister may have produced polite assurances, but not results. The subtext is unmistakable. Canada's lumber producers are being left to fend for themselves in a trade war they didn't start, while Ottawa continues to talk about support. Instead of delivering the concrete deal that could actually save the industry,
Three things over and over: steel, aluminum, and energy. We did not hear a lot of talk. Maybe it happened behind closed doors for all we know, but outwardly we did not hear a lot of talk about lumber. So how are you feeling about that today?
Disappointed. But you just said it as well. You've got to believe there's some back channeling going on at this point. You've got to believe there's something else happening, because I take people at face value until they prove otherwise. And the Prime Minister did say, you're going to be at the table. Lumber is equal to the other things, because we recognize that lumber is the automobile of...
When asked about the lack of public attention to lumber during trade discussions, with Ottawa focused mainly on steel, aluminum, and energy, Nick Arl didn't hide his disappointment. He acknowledged that while there might be quiet back-channel talks taking place behind the scenes, the absence of visible support sends a troubling signal to an industry already under immense pressure. Still, Arl remains cautiously optimistic, taking the Prime Minister at his word that lumber will have a seat at the negotiating table and be treated on par with Canada's other major sectors. His reminder that lumber is the automobile of British Columbia underscores just how vital this industry is to the province, a powerhouse employer and export engine that deserves the same political urgency and protection as any other pillar of the national economy.
Derek Nyber is standing by. He's the President and CEO of the Forest Products Association of Canada. He is in the capital today. Derek, it's good to see you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Todd.
So, what's the takeaway here for you and for the industry, this extra 10%? What does it mean?
Yeah, it's tough. So the 10%, we've already had softwood lumber duties now that have been increased to 35%. So this 10 is on top of that. So for the softwood lumber industry, we're looking at a 45% additional cost to ship lumber across the border. And, you mentioned kitchen cabinets, wood upholstered furniture. This is new for those segments, but this is on top of the existing drama and chaos we've already been seeing.
Derek Nyber, President and CEO of the Forest Products Association of Canada, painted a stark picture of the industry's reality. The newly announced 10% tariff doesn't stand alone. It piles onto existing softwood lumber duties that have already climbed to 35s, bringing total cross-border costs to a crushing 45. For lumber producers, that figure is devastating. But the pain doesn't stop there. Sectors like kitchen cabinetry and wood upholstered furniture, previously untouched by such measures, are now being dragged into the trade crossfire. Nyber described it as new territory. For many manufacturers, another layer of chaos on top of an already volatile situation. His comments underscore a grim truth. Canada's wood industry is being squeezed from every angle, caught between USA, trade barriers, and a domestic policy vacuum that has yet to offer any real relief.
Other markets, people talk about this. Oh, well, we can just send the lumber elsewhere. But as you know very well, that is very difficult to do, to sort of rewrite and rewire.
When asked whether Canada could simply redirect its lumber exports to other markets, Derek Nyber dismissed the idea as unrealistic. It's not as simple as just sending the lumber elsewhere, he explained. The global supply chain doesn't work like a light switch. Rewiring decades of trade relationships, logistical routes, and regulatory frameworks takes years, not months. The U.S. remains Canada's dominant customer because of proximity, infrastructure, and long-standing contracts. Shifting that overnight would require massive investment, new agreements, and entirely different transport systems. In short, diversification isn't a quick fix. It's a long, painful process that can't offset the immediate damage caused by us. Tariffs.